Awesemo.com NFL Strategy Show, Monday morning quarterback edition. I'm Dave Loughran. With me every single Monday morning at 11 on the East Coast, Josh Engleman and Adam Scherer, taking a look at everything from Week 10 slate. And, well, a lot happened, like Jared Goff throwing for almost 300 yards in the first half and finishing with 0 touchdowns because of Malcolm Brown. DeAndre Hopkins pushing me out of the cash in a bunch of different spots on a wild Hail Mary reception to win the game at home against the Bills. Another wild week in the NFL, Adam, and it seems that, the level of predictability at this point is virtually zero. We haven't even talked about Mike Davis yet.
Yeah, pretty crazy slate. A lot of good plays, chalk plays busting. It looked like every player on the slate was going to bust until like the fourth quarter of the 4:00 games. A decent week for me. Came out slightly ahead in tournaments. Made a ridiculously stupid cash game switch to lose 100% of my cash games, though. So
what was it?
So after the 1:00
game, of cash games,
what'd you say?
You say you lost 100% of cash games on one decision, very likely?
Yeah, I late swapped because in the 1:00 games I had Mike Davis, Duke Johnson, Austin Hooper, and Aaron Jones all do terribly. And so I was like, I felt like it was a close decision because they were, with the exception of Hooper, they were all popular. But I thought I needed to make up some ground. So I swapped what I had to a Seattle stack, hoping to just, jump the field if Seattle did well. And I would have finished with like a 50th percentile lineup. And instead I finished with not that. So I cost myself a bunch of money there.
What was your original lineup
so I went
before the swap? Was it the Rams?
Yeah, I went Kyler Murray, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, and the Rams defense to Wilson, Lockett, Metcalf, and the Saints.
Okay. Well, at least you came out ahead in tournaments. Could have been a lot worse. Josh, how about you, man? After week 10, you're looking at a lot of chalk, as Adam mentioned. Like, the large majority of chalk ended up not getting us what we needed.
Yeah, I was positive in GPPs, positive in head-to-heads, and I finished like a half step behind the cut line in all of my double ups, so I was ultimately down for the day. Could have been a really nice slate, all things considered, but I ended up having, I think I looked at it, it was either like top 44% pay in a double up. I think in NFL I hit like 48th percentile instead. Well, it's not percentile because it's the opposite direction, but it was like 48%. And then golf was 46. So like I just missed the cut line for the weekend. So it ended up being a crap weekend for me.
Well, all you need is one. And we saw that from a bunch of our subscribers yesterday, right, Josh? We saw a couple of these guys. And the very cool part is that some of them, it was their first big win that they've had. And I was pretty stoked about that. Norm Jr. said, purchase the Awesemo_com. And don't worry, I'm not doing this as like self-promotions for Awesemo. It's just nice to see that, subscribers are having some great days. This guy hit for like $4,000 on I think it was like $100 in entries. And then Josh, the other one, I can't find it right now, but he hit for $20K. And I'm pretty sure he only played $100 or so. So that was good to see.
Can't beat it. You can't beat it. We had a ton of people posting screenshots. I mentioned golf earlier, but we had a ton of people posting really big numbers for golf. A lot of like 25, 50K guys. NFL looked pretty good too. Yeah,
it did. So, Josh, quickly before I get back to you, Adam, you're behind the controls today, producing this one, and we always pull up Fantasy Cruncher lineup study. It's a lot of fun to look at it each week, whether you did good, bad, indifferent, to see how everyone else did and to see what exposures looked like, ownership, and their overall performances. Unfortunately, Fantasy Cruncher hasn't updated for the main slates yet, but we do have two really big contests, one being the early only 225K, 50K to first, and then we have the afternoon slate as well, the big afternoon 6-game slate. So I figure we'll just do our best to hit on that and look at overall ownership. But for those of you guys that are listening right now, this is not main slate. We don't have that. So ownership might sound differently than it did on the main slate because, well, it is different.
Yeah, I do have up right now the $3.20 max play action. Owners, I wouldn't look like too much into the ownership just because this isn't exactly the sharpest field of all of the stuff that we could look at. But at the very least, it'll give us all of the fantasy point scoring for those guys. And it'll be directionally accurate. It's not like Mike Davis is going to be like 6% owned, but he wasn't the chalk. Oh, wait, hold on. This isn't even the right contest then, because this is showing Mike Davis's salary at 6,700, and that is not what we want.
That would be early only.
Yeah, early only Monday to or Sunday to Monday.
Mike Davis was 6,700. Well, I'm just letting you know.
Oh, no. I think it's a bug because I'm not on an early only slate.
Gotcha.
I think it's just showing it incorrectly.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's showing early only, which means that we very likely don't have any main slate contest to look at.
I think that's probably the case.
Josh, if you can pull up the early only 150K to first, Adam. You know what? Hold on a second. Early only, Mike Davis isn't in this one either. It looks like, maybe there is a bug. I don't know. What I do know is that Aaron Jones ownership, Adam, was absurd. Devontae Adams, very high. These guys, all of whom on these contests that were above 20%, almost none of them went over 20 fantasy points, and that is insane.
Yeah, basically no scoring in the early games if you weren't on the Bucs is kind of how it worked out, or Aaron Rodgers or a Washington running back. But yeah, so no Mike Davis being here, weird. But he was 6,700 as you mentioned, so I would assume not quite as popular as he was on the main slate. But yeah, not really too surprising. Like if you look at the top of the leaderboard for the early only, you have a few like 150 max guys, but a lot of single entry or 15 max. The guy that won it played 15 lineups. One of those slates where if you're playing 150 lineups, you're probably naturally just going to have a lot of lineups that have these guys at the top that really didn't do very well.
Yeah. And another thing too, Josh, the Bucs were a team that I talked about all week. I said, I really want to target these guys. Like I just don't necessarily know where to go. If you get the run game right, you have to get the actual running back right.
Leonard Fournette was not the answer. I found that out.
I mean, Ronald Jones shouldn't have been the answer.
Right.
What's that?
Ronald Jones shouldn't have been the answer.
But see, I don't know. I'm not at all surprised. Like, am I surprised that he's the fourth running back ever with a 98-yard run? Touchdown run? Yeah, obviously. But I'm not surprised that he had a good game against that front for the Carolina Panthers. It's just who the hell would it's hard to predict it because there's so many mouths to feed on the Bucs.
I was pissed at myself once I realized Ronald Jones was actually a little bit cheaper than Fournette because I hadn't even noticed when I was making
he's 5,300.
Right. So I was a little bit pissed because I thought that people were kind of undervaluing his role. Like I still think he's the lead running back. It's just that the Bucs have been in games where they're behind or competitive, and Fournette is getting that third down and hurry up offense work. I still think Fournette, or going into that game at least, I still thought Fournette was the guy that you wanted to have because of the pass game work. And if you're stacking that game, you're hoping for a shootout, and that would favor Fournette. But I didn't think it was like shocking that Jones had a good game. I thought it was shocking, like you said, that he had a 198-yard touchdown run.
Right. Oh my God, Josh, is that the winning lineup on that slate? $4.
Am I crazy? Did Ronald Jones not fumble twice?
He fumbled once, or he lost one. I don't know how many times he fumbled.
Yeah, I thought he lost two. I thought he fumbled and then he did it again, and I don't know. Clearly, that's not.
You might just be thinking of like every other game the Bucs have played where he also fumbles.
Yeah. So Brady, Ronald Jones, Evans, and Gronk, 4-man stack for the Bucs, making that up in the early, with no bring back.
That's insane. Sometimes I wish I would. I think we all feel this. Sometimes when you don't listen to yourself, like Adam, you talked about cash. I'm sure there was a large part of you that, like, when you look back on it now, you're saying, why did I do that?
There was a large part of me at the time that was saying that.
Exactly. But you still did it anyway, right? Kind of inexplicable. I did the same thing where I was like, I got to play the Bucs. I'll take chances seeing which one of these guys pops off. And then I just, I got away from, I had some Jones, I had a decent amount of Godwin, but I didn't stack them. Now, granted, would I have landed on a lineup like that with $4? Obviously not. But, ultimately they ended up just absolutely routing Carolina, despite the fact that the plane landed 7.5 hours later than it should have.
Yeah, they got into the hotel at 11 o'clock p.m.
Yeah.
This is a really weird lineup. It has two Washington guys also.
Yeah.
No Carolina guys.
Against the Lions defense.
Yeah. Random ass Keelan Cole in the flex.
who went off.
Yeah, 91-yard punt return and then a receiving touchdown.
Yeah, in massive wind. That's just crazy. John Bowen was second place. What did his lineup look like in the second place spot, Josh?
Kareem Hunt plus Nick Chubb.
Jeez.
And they both went for 100 yards.
Oh, man. So I guess he would have won if Nick Chubb didn't walk out at the 1-yard line.
Yep.
Oh, he would have, huh?
Yeah.
That hurts.
I'm going to assume that did not give him a Chubb.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of those where this guy won 20K and he feels like absolute dog shit.
Yeah, I don't know. You're playing Hunt and Chubb in the same lineup. You shouldn't feel like dog shit.
Clearly, he didn't think it was a bad idea when he did it, probably. So he probably, in hindsight, doesn't think it was a bad idea either.
That's true. He had Brady, Godwin, Evans, and Gronk, too.
And the Valdez-Scantling 70-yard touchdown or whatever it actually was. 78.
Yeah.
I guess it was just because of the slate, but 5.6% ownership on Valdez-Scantling. Like, even though that's not a lot of raw ownership, that's still going to piss you off if you played that tournament and didn't have him.
Yeah. You want to know what the best part is, too? Dude played Jaguars defense.
Yeah, they were 2K, whatever.
I know, but I'm saying it just goes to show you how many times we've talked about it on this show that it doesn't need to be a good defense. Hell, they don't even need to be in a particularly great spot.
Yeah. And Josh and I even talked on the morning show yesterday. Someone had asked about rostering a wide receiver and a defense together. And we had said that, it's not the first thing that I would look to do, but that it's not the end of the world because you basically are looking for a defensive touchdown and receivers can get there in a variety of ways. And that's basically what you see here. Green Bay's offense did well, but Keelan Cole ran one back for the Jaguars and you got a good defense at 2K.
Yeah. I lived in the cheap defense range yesterday and I got to a decent amount of Texans lineups with Austin Hooper. Didn't really care about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think my best lineup used the $2,100 Bengals defense that got -4.
Josh, sometimes though, like it does depend on who you're pairing it with. If it's Austin Hooper where you're hoping the guy gets you 10 fantasy points at a terrible tight end position, that's one thing. But if you're running out a defense against and you have Devontae Adams and you have Aaron Jones or Christian McCaffrey, something crazy where you're paying a lot and you need him to score, I think that's a little bit different. Yeah. On bigger slates, you could make the argument that on smaller slates, it's not as bad. But if I'm playing a $3,900 tight end, I don't really care about putting the defense in there against them.
No, not at all. That's all I got.
Go ahead, Adam.
I was going to say, I kind of actually feel the opposite there. Like with the $3,900 guy, I agree with your point. It's he can pay off $3,900 without doing much. But like to the Devontae Adams point, he can catch 15 passes for 120 yards and be a really good play and not even have to score. So like, I don't mind taking it's not optimal or ideal, but I don't mind taking the big time pass catchers against my defense. I don't want to take a running back because typically they need to actually get in the end zone multiple times. But right. As far as, the guys that are going to catch double-digit passes or at least get double-digit targets, I don't really mind it.
If you guys haven't done so, hit that thumbs up for us. I know, Josh, you did a pretty good job. You said, I'm going to badger you guys a little bit yesterday, and you got up almost like 700 after the first hour. It's pretty impressive. Impressive stuff.
When you're good, you're good.
We all have our thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But really, the big thing is subscribe to the channel, guys. I know most of you that watch this show with us every Monday are already subscribed, and you helped push us over 40K. We're well on our way to 50K. We're trying to hit that by the end of the year, and it would mean so much to us. But here's the cool thing. It's helpful to you too, right? If you hate it, just unsubscribe. I don't think you'll want to, but if you do, fine. But if you like what we do here, you appreciate our work, the easiest way really to help support us is hit that subscribe. And then, on the recommended feed, on the right side, you see the up next feed, all of that, you'll get recommended Awesemo more often. So you won't be at risk of missing our shows. So if you haven't subscribed yet, do that. It's great for us. It's great for you, for all parties involved. We're in business. All right. Josh, the ownership here on the early slate relative to the fantasy points was pretty insane. Aaron Jones, wildly owned, 14 fantasy points. Devontae Adams, 45. I know he left the game for a bit, came back, less than 20 fantasy points. At 9K, that's not going to cut it. Terry McLaurin was in a lot of top lineups. I think he was in the first and second lineup. Correct me if I'm wrong. So his 18.2 didn't hurt anybody. But then, man, Duke Johnson, look at that. Miles Sanders actually was extremely efficient. It's just couldn't get into the end zone. Robbie Anderson, Evan Ingram, Curtis Samuel, Dallas Goedert. Look at these fantasy points compared to the actual ownership. Even on crazy weeks where chalk doesn't hit, you rarely see it this bad with like top 10 owned guys all going under 20 fantasy points.
And we haven't even touched on the biggest piece of chalk that busted.
Mike Davis.
Yeah, for the main.
He was 16%.
slate.
He's there. We just didn't see him.
Right. Well,
that's right. Because
he's not owned the same way in
this.
Right.
From a main slate perspective, I mean, that's the big one. And I know I said it, Adam, I know you said it, Laffy, I assume you said it. Him busting was irrelevant to most things. Like, he's too cheap for it to matter all that much.
Like, it helped you if you, it was relevant in that it's still a roster spot. Like, you couldn't have, let's say, Swift, Kamara, Jacobs if you have Davis because of the roster spot. But so like you're in a potentially better situation if you don't have him, but you weren't drawing dead just because you have Mike Davis.
Exactly.
That's
why you play him.
Yeah. Right. I went to a few spots where I went like Marvin Hall as a really cheap guy at 3,500 to get away from Davis, and then went with like a DJ Moore, Teddy Bridgewater stack, ran it back with a Godwin. So I did have some lineups like that, some hand-built lineups that I threw into the singles and the 3 max and the 5 max lineups. But, the thing is when you're paying up for running back, had a lot of Kamara, but Adam, you pay up for a running back. So many of the high-end running backs yesterday just didn't hit anyway. So like, for example, if I went Marvin Hall, a lot of spots, it was like I went Alvin Kamara, and then I had Sanders with him. I had Alvin Kamara, and I had Aaron Jones. I had a little bit of James Conner. Josh Jacobs was good, but aside from that, man, those 6K and up guys not named Alvin Kamara or Jacobs really let us down, many of them in great matchups.
Yeah, and I went a little bit different route. I played a lot of Mike Davis, but then I pivoted off of Duke Johnson a lot. At 5K. I played JD McKissick at 4,900. I played a lot of DeAndre Swift at 5,100, had some Bernard, some Jerick McKinnon, mixed results on those guys. But, that kind of staying in that 5K range and just playing someone other than Duke Johnson worked out pretty well. It was just, a matter of obviously you still have to hit on all your other pieces. But it was just an interesting running back slate, I think, in that there were so many similarly priced guys that had the same range of outcomes. And, there's a lot of just kind of gravitation towards a couple of guys in particular. I just thought it was easier to get away from Duke because he was the same price as all these other guys, whereas Davis, you still had to find salary to get away from him.
I know I've annoyed the shit out of people with my JD McKissick talk, just like that connection he appears to have with Alex Smith. But again, another 15 targets. It's absurd how much he looks McKissick's way. I think it really is time that we start paying attention to it. And I know he wasn't spectacular, but
could have been.
Man,
Alex
could have been. He should. He
had a touchdown.
He had such a big chance to just break that slate wide open if Alex Smith could make throws.
I mean, he missed it by a yard, basically,
twice
for a touchdown. Yeah,
twice.
Yeah, 15 targets. I mean, listen, if you played him and pivoted off of some other guys in that range, particularly Mike Davis, I guess Duke Johnson would be a better example, like you said, Adam, because it's $100 difference. But I mean, that makes a big difference. He had a great game, but could have had a monster game.
It didn't matter in the scheme of things, but it pissed me off when Gibson ended up scoring 5 more points than McKissick, just because he got like the 2 rushing touchdowns when McKissick was like the entire Washington offense the entire game.
I know, it's absurd, isn't it? But
yeah, but and it's something
23 total looks. 23
it's something
total
I don't.
Looks.
Oh, go ahead. What'd you say?
No, I said 23 total looks for McKissick. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something that normally I'm not one that's going to catch that kind of stuff. Like there's football people on Twitter that I'll steal stuff from. But, being a Washington fan, I noticed it, and it's something I expect to continue. They want McKissick in there for pass protection with Smith. So that gets him on the field. Smith, his whole career, has been a check down guy. So when you're a running back on the field with him, you're going to get passes. And on top of that, there's no real receiving outside of Mclaren on this offense. So I expect it to continue. I thought it was kind of funny that people were like, I guess on Twitter, they were kind of tilting that Gibson wasn't doing well early on and that McKissick was stealing looks, when, I don't know, I thought it was pretty obvious that McKissick was the guy there.
Yeah.
Josh, what do you think from hindsight, because, sometimes we like to look back and then look forward. You're going to hear a lot of people talk about Mike Davis, how he sucked. And I'll be honest, there was a legitimate possibility that he would not be good against that Tampa Bay front, for sure. But in the grand scheme of things, is there really any good argument from an overall strategy standpoint to getting away from Mike Davis and just coming in way under the field on him? And if not, I see you shaking your head. Just tell us why, because that's really the important stuff here if we're trying to cover everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just as simple as saying that he was $4,000. For weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5, a similar setup, ignoring defense, a similar setup to what we were expecting. I mean, he went for 15, 23, 22, and 29.9. It has tailed off since then, but he also wasn't at $4,000. I don't care what he did. He could have got hurt on the first play of the game. It doesn't change anything for me. He was clearly the best play for the slate. Whether or not it worked out or not is really irrelevant to me.
So, I want to hit on the afternoon slate because, man, was I heated. Jared Goff threw for 285 yards 3 or 4 minutes into the second half, Josh. Like, if you told me my quarterback has thrown almost 300 yards with nearly a half to go, I'd be jumping for joy. Okay. If you told me he'd done that and Malcolm Brown and company vultured all 3 of the touchdowns, well, be pretty pissed. And then also tell me that he basically didn't throw for a single yard over the last 20 minutes of the game, equally pissed off. It just felt like, of course, this was going to happen because Seattle all season long had been crushed in the passing game. They're on pace to allow almost 6,000 yards passing. Every one of their games has gone over by an average. Their games have gone over the total by an average margin of like 18 points. And of course, when I finally load up on Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp and Woods and even Higbee, this is the result. So I'd love to see what these afternoon slates look like.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Go ahead.
I was just looking at the top lineups. Ending came in, it looks like 4th
and 5th.
Yeah, the best non-DeAndre Hopkins, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen lineup by like less than a point.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that one is Roethlisberger, Kamara, Jacobs, Ayuk, Juju, Higgins, Henry, Deontay Johnson, Raiders. But the winner, Kyler Murray, Kamara, Jacobs, Beasley, DeAndre Hopkins, Jakeem Grant, Hunter Henry, Deontay Johnson, Rams D. So you needed that 30 plus from Murray, Kamara, Jacobs, Beasley. Really glad I didn't take Jacobs as my 100 yards in the touchdown pick this week.
Is that the only week you haven't taken him?
More or less. We even talked about it on the show. I was like, well, I can't take him again, so this should be the week that he goes really, he does well. And sure as shit, that happened.
And if you guys in chat, I know, like I said, but most of you guys hang out with us each week when we do this. If you guys have questions, comments on this slate, love to hear them. If they're good ones, we'll touch on them. Whether it's, what was the ownership of this guy? What did this look like? Unfortunately, Fantasy Cruncher hasn't updated for the main slate yet, but we do have some big contests for the afternoon and for early. Adam, I got to tell you, man, and this is something that I tweeted yesterday. Deontay Johnson really is like the most disrespected DFS player out there. And I know, I get it. You could play devil's advocate and say, yeah, but there was wind. You could say a bunch of different things. I get that. But the guy was $5,200. And you could also say he gets injured a lot. That's something I honestly don't care about, because as long as they are healthy, that's, you're playing tournaments. I want a guy that can give me the ceiling game when he's healthy. And Deontay Johnson's done that. In the contests I was looking at, many of the main slate ones, he was like 5 to 6% owned. Meanwhile, Chase Claypool, he's going to be great. We've talked about it. But Chase Claypool was, I think, $700 more expensive, and he was higher owned than him. What is it about Deontay Johnson that just doesn't get him any love every week, despite the fact that when he's healthy, the guy crushes?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. And I'm not saying that as someone who like plays a lot of Deontay Johnson. I'm saying it as someone that every week doesn't have as much Deontay Johnson as I was hoping I'd have, because it's like that ceiling is there. He has that potential, but at the same time, it's always tough to be like confident in him, because he's competing with Juju, he's competing with Claypool, and then you also have extenuating factors, like the wind this week, for example. So as long as that's the case, he's going to be a good tournament play pretty much every week. It's just you also you can make, I guess you can make the same point. Like, let's say the ownership flips and Deontay Johnson gets a bunch of ownership and Claypool doesn't get any, then you'd want to be playing Claypool because it's the same thing. So I think it's tough because you're basically just guessing between the three receivers on Pittsburgh, especially now that Juju has seemingly taken back his role as a legitimate NFL wide receiver. So it's tough when you have, three legitimate targets on this team that can all have big games. But to your point about, looking for ceiling in tournaments, it's tough to find many guys in that price range that have the same sort of upside as Johnson.
Scoops Coat or Scoops Cote, not sure which one. Thanks for the super chat, brother. He says, back to positive NFL ROI after many learnings last year. Have a much improved process this season, in large part thanks to your tools and content. Appreciate it, fellas. Appreciate you, brother. That name's going on the Iverson jersey. It's going to be loaded up in no time. But yeah, thanks for that. And yeah, Josh, it is a process, and a lot does go into NFL, and it's really the most tilting sport because if you have a bad week, sure, you can go to Monday Night Football, you can go to Thursday Night Football, but you still have to wait a long time to get back to that main slate every single week.
Sorry, I'm responding to a message from normal producer Jordan Klein trying to put out some fake news about James Harden right now. He's ruining my DMs.
Oh, okay.
Where does he think James Harden got traded to now?
Nowhere. Getting DMs like, oh, is this a fake account?
You know what drives me nuts? Brooklyn absolutely made one of the worst trades you'll ever see several years back, right? Grabbing Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett in the twilight of their career, losing. How many years of first round picks did they lose?
Most.
Right? Most. And now they have an opportunity to get Harden, Durant, and Kyrie Irving just several years later. And what a mess the NBA is.
I mean, if you're the Nets, you cannot do that trade. Kyrie's got to go out for you to bring in Harden.
So you don't think it would work?
No, they're going to be so bad. They're so bad. They can't stop anybody.
Yeah, that wouldn't be great. But this is something all three of us will be talking about a lot in the coming months. So
for sure.
Just stick around for our NBA content. We're getting the season back, hopefully, before Christmas, which is super exciting. We love doing NBA content here. Josh, let me stay with you for a second and just look at some of these top owned guys in the afternoon. I think this was a whole lot different where Alvin Kamara needed to be as high owned as he was. He's a stud, but Michael Thomas was 20% owned on a 6-game slate. You want to talk about a dreadful showing. I had a lot of him on the main slate too, thinking I'm getting a discount. Oh, holy shit, was that bad?
4.7 fantasy points, 7 targets, 2 for 27. Really glad I boosted that ownership up at like the 1255 mark live before lock. That was smart. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. I mean, Adam, he's returned. He's had 2 ugly games. I don't want to read too much into it, but that's the risk of Alvin Kamara grabbing your receiving and rushing touchdowns. Kamara had a horrible day on the ground, but it didn't even matter.
Yeah. Thomas might be getting a real quarterback now, though, so that's good.
Oh, God.
Jameis season.
Jameis didn't seem like he could do much with Michael Thomas either.
Yeah, I mean,
it's on the bench.
Yeah.
I'm already. Someone tweeted it yesterday, and I agree completely. I already know this is going to turn into like me losing money on Michael Thomas every week for the rest of the year if he doesn't turn it around because his price is just going to keep coming down. His ownership's going to stay in check, and I'm going to roster him every week at this point.
Who were the top tight ends from a fantasy point perspective yesterday?
There weren't any. I think it was Gronk and then like Hunter Henry with 13.
Yeah, Hunter Henry had 13. I liked him on the afternoon slate.
That's the high number on the afternoon slate. I'm going to slide back to the early now just to see if it's any different.
And I'm assuming Higbee had
he had 9.
9. I think he had all that in the first
early
half.
slate was Gronk at 13.1. So 13.1 is the highest mark that a tight end had on the main slate.
I just feel like at this point, and I didn't really have much yesterday, but do I really want to keep paying almost $6,000 for Darren Waller when, he should probably be like $5,000?
To be fair, he dropped a 55-yard touchdown.
Well, yeah. That's why should I be paying that much for a guy that drops 55-yard
right.
touchdowns?
Yeah, he was my highest owned guy outside of Mike Davis. But yeah, like the problem, I think, just talking like strategy at tight end in general, normally you'll have Travis Kelce on slates and you can rely on him to at least to some extent. But when you only have like one guy at the top or two, if you want to include Waller, it makes punting tight end more appealing because there's less guys that you need to just have a mediocre outing in order for that to be like the optimal strategy. Like if you had all of Kelce, Kittle, Waller, and then, you like brought back Aaron Hernandez and peak Rob Gronkowski or something at the top, like then you're talking about 5 guys that can legitimately put up 30 and you need none of them to do it for your punt to work. But when it's just Travis Kelce there and, to some extent Waller, it becomes a lot more appealing to just be throwing darts at 4K guys hoping they get in the end zone.
Yeah. I mean, even some of the cheaper guys than that, at this rate, I don't know, Josh, it's been a position that is really, I won't use the term giving us trouble, but like you have the Travis Kelce weeks and you had the one huge George Kittle week, but that was a primetime game. I mean, they're just on the whole have not been many weeks this year where the top price tight ends or even like the mid to high price tight ends have been in the winning lineups.
Yeah, I mean, like we got a 31-point week out of Waller in week 2, 16 targets, a little bit more than the 5 that he got this.
And that
week.
was a primetime game, wasn't that the Saints game? So it wasn't even on the main slate.
Yeah, wasn't even on the main slate. But yeah, look, I had a ton of Waller yesterday because he was just the exact opposite of every single other tight end that was available.
Sure,
and he projected better than the wide receiver counterparts at a similar salary tier. So he ended up in everything. I didn't realize he was going to be bad like that. But ultimately, I guess it didn't matter. I mean, every non-Waller lineup I had was basically just picking out other tight end names out of a hat.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of been my strategy on a lot of weeks this year. It's been my strategy kind of to pay up for one of the premier tight ends and hope that I can just gain like 15 to 20 raw points on the field that pays down. And, it's gone really poorly. I think it's been one of the biggest it's at least in terms of results and probably at least to some extent in terms of decision making been one of the biggest mistakes I've made like consistently this year. But and it goes back to what I was saying about there just being at this point because of injuries and stuff, you're down to like just the one guy to pay up for. So I think it's a strategy change I'll be making going forward.
It's funny going back or looking forward to next week. We'll do the Awesemo strategy show first look with Ben Rasa, Sal Vetri, and myself tomorrow. We do these strategy shows every day of the week, 11 Eastern, Monday through Saturday. On the contrary, 1:30 Saturday, and then Sunday is the marathon show. Josh pulls a 2-hour shift, starting off at 9 a.m. and then closing us out from 12 to 1. Adam is on the 9 a.m. show. I'm with Alex and Ben from 10:30 to 11:30, and then we get the Q&A show. So all of that throughout the week. There's nowhere else you need to be. But I'm just looking now at the pricing for next week. There's not a single tight end above 4,900.
Yeah, good. Maybe I can win next week.
I'm sure you'll late swap out of it.
Yeah, TJ High or Mark Andrews is 4,900. That's it. That's your highest priced guy. So that'll be fun to talk about.
What's
Josh?
We got a show. Price?
What's that?
What's Mike Davis's price?
Mike Davis is 6,800.
Okay, because McCaffrey's already out.
For next week, they already ruled him out again?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That Dynasty League, I have out of my injuries this season in Dynasty, just unrecoverable.
I'm right there with you. Not McCaffrey, but I have like an entire bench of guys on IR.
Sucks.
Unlikely to play, by the way.
And it really sucks because we have to win this year because Ian Kenyon's going to win every year for the next decade if we don't.
No, he's not. No, he's not. I mean, what he's done is absurd with all the picks that he has. I agree with you there. They still got to hit, brother. They still got to hit. Now, granted, you're right. When you have every first round pick, right? When you have every first round pick, you'll probably do okay. But we'll see. Anyway, overall thoughts, fellas. When you look, it's unfortunate, guys. Like I said, the Fantasy Cruncher didn't update, so we can't do the normal stuff we do. But our chalk report, we can get a pretty good idea of what happened. Mike Davis wasn't good. Aaron Jones wasn't good. Most of the chalk wasn't good. Rams weren't good. Seattle wasn't good. What else am I missing here that came in as somewhat chalky and let us down?
I'm looking at
Duke Johnson.
I'm looking at the Millie right now, just for reference sake. Mike Davis got to 4th.
So wait, the 4th place lineup did have Mike Davis?
Yes.
Okay. What was the first? What was the winning lineup? Because I'm assuming you're just scrolling through the contest.
Yeah. Murray, Kamara, Jacobs, Johnson, Hopkins, Beasley, Logan Thomas, Reynolds, Browns, rather, defense.
How much did Logan Thomas have?
10.6.
Okay. So there you have it. Another cheap tight end in the winning lineup. We're seeing that a lot, man. We are seeing that a lot.
That's so the 4th place. Only 2 of the top 10. Nope. Yeah. 2 of the top 10 have Mike Davis in it. 4th and 9th. 9th being friend of the program, KCMO24.
How popular was Davis in that? Like 40%?
40.8.
Wow. There was someone on Twitter yesterday that said he was responding to Alex's tweet about on the contrary from Saturday, where he's like, yeah, it's easy. Just plug Mike Davis in, basically tongue in cheek because of how cheap it was. Plug Mike Davis in, but we still got to get 8 other guys that can make it happen. And this guy yesterday after the Davis game goes, Alex obviously played 0 Mike Davis. This is just a way to get ownership away from him and create more of an advantage. And that's why
Alex at 100%.
Yeah. I want to know. That's why I was kind of pissed to see that we don't have it updated yet, because I wanted to see what he had and take a screenshot and say, oh, okay, pal. Because I'm assuming he had a ton.
I was just curious in general, too, to see what a lot of the good 150 max players had on Mike Davis, because
Me too.
I feel like I think I played like set around 65, 70%. I felt pretty strongly that was a good spot to be in, but I was curious to see what other people did.
Me too. Like this slate more than anything, I wanted to see what happened because Mike Davis, we haven't seen this other than Boston Scott. Well, no, that's not true because we had Jamal Williams and the Gio Bernard game too.
Boston Scott still got you into the top 10. What I would like to see, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts. I can't remember how big each one of these contests are, but I'd love to see the difference to see what the 150 maxers did in, let's say, the slant compared to the Millie with Mike Davis, or another smaller big contest that isn't the Millie, to see if you go no Mike Davis in the Millie, but a lot of Mike Davis in a smaller field contest.
Yeah, I think that would be like, at least in theory, it's like I don't know if correct. It makes sense that way, at least. I don't really know how many 150 maxers play separate lineups and stuff, though.
Neither do I. But
if you have a partner,
that seems like a specific way you would do it on a day like that.
Yeah, I know
Mike
2
Davis.
that play different ones, Lofty.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said I know at least 2 that play different lineups and stuff. But
I was gonna say, if you have a partner, you can do it in the same contest.
Yeah, and you can win that Millie too.
I'd be curious too to see what they did in like single and 3 max. Obviously, I know that you're going to assume, of course, that they played Mike Davis in the high stakes single entry or 3 max. But as far as the winners go in that, did any good players take down some of those high stakes single or 3 max or 2 or 4 whatever contest without Mike Davis in their lineups?
Awesome.
But
maybe we'll know next week.
I guess we don't know.
We do not know.
You guys
I just
didn't
pulled
catch
up the $333 3 max power sweep on DraftKings. I don't recognize a single name in the top 10.
Really?
Mike Leone at 13 is the first name I recognize. He had Mike Davis, who was 60% owned in that.
Anybody else that you recognize in the top 20?
Probably not Ship My Money.
No, my best lineup was 120th, but no, Boggs came in 21st.
Did you make that lineup from the hole?
Dink came in 22nd.
With
they
Davis
all
or
had
without?
Davis.
No Davis?
Yodakow in 25th had Davis. Ben Raza in 26th did not have Davis. Did have Duke Johnson, though. And Ronald Jones.
Ben ain't afraid to mix things up a little bit. I'll tell you that much.
McLovin played Mike Davis in 34th. It seems pretty much every name I recognize except for Ben had Mike Davis.
Mike Davis.
And Ben had Duke Johnson, so.
But yeah,
that is the thing that I've seen, and I mean it makes sense because I'm selecting lineups at the top. But these guys had one of them, not both of them.
How much? How many fantasy points did Johnson finish with?
5.
5. So
Yeah, 5.4.
So really, Mike Davis was a better play from a results standpoint than
yeah.
Duke Johnson.
Yeah, $1,000 cheaper and scored 60% more points.
Yeah. So all right, we did an Awesemo showdown show, by the way. Myself, Matt Gajeski, and former defensive end for the Chicago Bears, Alex Brown. He was on him for almost a decade. He joined us again this week. Really fun show. So after we're done here, go back and watch that replay. Of course, the Bears are playing tonight against Minnesota. So it was really cool for him to analyze, give us an X and O's perspective, while Matt gave us more data-driven analysis on the opposite side of the stream. It's a lot of fun. And if you haven't checked out our Awesemo content yet, for less than $4 a week, we've got all of our showdown content. Ownership projections, player projections, the top players tool, on top of other content for main slates and, all of the other stuff like the Express Top Stacks tool, Express Lineup Builder, the rankings, and so much more. That's less than $4 a week. You can also, of course, get monthly, annual, weekly, all access. You could do just NFL. You can do all sports. All these tools built by the #1 DFS player in the world. And as you heard at the top of the show, some of our subs had some really great weeks or great days yesterday. Many of them new subscribers. So you'll hear Josh say it or myself. That's not going to make you a millionaire just by signing up. You're not going to become the #1 player, but you're certainly going to, get better and have the best tools out there. I believe the best tools out there at your disposal. So go to awesemo.com/join. Check that out. Final thoughts from this week, Josh. What are we thinking, man?
I'm happy with the way that everything went. I basically lost a coin flip, and I'll take it. I'm really happy with where I am from a DFS perspective right now. So I'm super ready for week 11. I'm probably more excited for week 12 just because of the Thanksgiving piece. So we'll get a couple additional slates that'll seem fun to play, and it'll break it up a little bit, give us a little bit more frequency since I'm traditionally an NBA guy and I like to do this stuff every single day over and over again. The lull kind of sucks, so I'm hoping Thanksgiving helps that out. Watch my showdown videos, which should be out on our YouTube channel sometime in the next hour or so. FanDuel and DK.
Yeah. They've been awesome. And you're still doing your top 5s videos too for the main slates.
Yep.
I call them smoke break videos, meaning, you get your 5-10 minute break, whether it be at work or whatever. For me, I just walk downstairs, or, you want to grab something to eat real quick. These are the best times. Like, these longer form videos are tougher to watch at times, but Josh, you're doing what? Some of them 5-10 minute videos. You can squeeze them in at any point throughout the day.
Maybe we can call them like dumpers or something to watch while you're on the crapper. I don't know.
Oh, I think I could pull a good hour-long stream on the dumper. That wouldn't work.
These shows are for taking dumps.
Yeah, I mean, when my legs start to tingle, I go, okay, you know what? Yeah. Let's call it a day. And then I wobble into the wall. Adam, what do you got? Close us out.
I'm with Josh. It was, I think, a decent week. Obviously made some mistakes, as I mentioned, but I'll have my lineup review article coming out on Awesemo in a couple of hours, going through my best 3 max tournament lineup, and both cash lineups ended up playing before and after my terrible swap.
All right. What's up, Josh?
I'm just laughing at his late swap.
All right. We got so much more coming up throughout the week, and Thanksgiving slate's going to be amazing. We're going to have so much content. So appreciate you guys. Hit that subscribe and the thumbs up button before you go. Hopefully everybody had a good week. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Of course, we got the waiver wire show today. We got a lot more coming up throughout the day. No place to be other than awesemo.com right here on YouTube. We'll see you back here soon, guys. Thanks for watching.